Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Unfiltered Historian. We are here tonight with a guest finally. So this is not unfiltered conversations. This isn't going to be the typical just banter we had back and forth. But we're really excited to have Aaron Stoyack come on and present something really unique to the field of Civil War history for sure. Again, I'm Tyler McGraw. I'm the host of the Unfiltered Historian. My co-host Anthony Trusso, if you're watching, should be above me there. There he is. Wave everybody to him. And of course, we have Aaron Stoyack. Aaron, would you like to take over the floor and introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Tyler and Anthony.
Absolutely.
My name is Aaron Stoyack. I'm Chief of Education at Pamplin Historical Park, which is in Dinwiddie, Virginia. Um, we preserve the site of the Breakthrough Battlefield, which is going to be the breakthrough of the
That's right.
Petersburg Lines on April 2nd, 1865. Today, I'm going to be talking about something totally different, out of left field.
Darn it! I would thought you were going
Way
to
out
regale
west.
us with Charles Gould and going in. He's one of my favorites. But no, what a
Hmm.
great topic you have tonight, man.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of time for that, I'm sure. We
Oh
can
yeah.
we can talk all about that, but today um, we've got something that I don't think a lot of people have heard about. Also, if I sound like I'm sick, it's because I am, but I'm keeping a steady diet of cough drops, so um, I'm gonna give you all the best. So to set the stage a little bit, I'm going to be talking about a guy named Juan Nepomuceno Cortina. Um, in the U.S., of course, as Americans, we fought a lot of wars. We fought about 123 of them. Of those, 8 of them are going to be named after an adversary, and Cortina is the only one of those who wasn't a Native American, and he's also got 2 wars named after him. Not only that, but over the course of his life, Cortina fights against the U.S. Army, does civilian contract work for the Army, overthrows an American town, fights the Army again, trades with the Confederates, receives military supplies from the U.S., trades with the Confederates again, leads the only foreign military unit that sides with the Union, fights with them during the Civil War, has active duty U.S. troops fight for his cause in Mexico, and then fights the U.S. Army again. And he's an American citizen by birth. So that's kind of crazy. So he's going to be a lot of things. He's going to be called a lot of things. He's going to be called desperado, a bandit, an outlaw, a murderer, soldier, patriot, revolutionary, even a Robin Hood type figure.
Okay.
And in some ways, I'm gonna let people come to their own conclusions and judgments on that. But he's kind of a little bit of everything, and what he is not, despite the description I just gave, is this treacherous turncoat.
Hmm.
Despite what that sounds like, he is a man of principles, and for the most part, he is acting with the benefit of his native Mexico and those people in mind.
Awesome.
So, kind of set the stage of how he got to all that fun stuff. He's going to be born. Oh, you can show the picture, I guess.
You want me to show him again?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
That's that guy. He's a lot older. When he's born, he does not look like that. Um,
Got some good whiskers
Oh
on
yeah.
him.
I would hope not.
yeah,
Yeah.
We
that's
got some
actually
Benjamin Button stuff going on there.
Mm.
that is the only picture that we have of him. As a matter
Okay.
of fact, not
So
a
he wasn't
lot
a
is
well
known.
photographed man by any means.
He was not. He was not. A lot like his contemporaries around that time in Mexico, not a whole lot is known about his early childhood. We do know he's born in 1824
Okay.
um, in northern Mexico. He is going to be born on a town that remains on the Mexican side of the border, so on the south bank of the Rio Grande, called Matamoros. He does not receive much of an education at all. He's not even literate. Um, but he is going to be a cunning guy, and he learns how to practice violence in a pretty violent place. He's born only 3 years after Mexico gets his independence from Spain. Um, And throughout his early adolescence, you've got some Spanish operations to try to take it back or extract, debts. You've got the Texan War of Independence. You've got rebellion against Santa Anna, and you've also got plenty of Comanche and Apache raids. And for most of his life, this is going to be a pretty barren place. It's about 65 miles from the Gulf. And there's not a whole lot going on in Matamoros, but for a guy like him, he's going to make the most of it. You can stop showing his picture so we can see your beautiful face, Tyler.
A scholar, thank you for that. Very kind of you, but no. I mean, I was digging having him there. I'm just like, is this what I look like? I'm just kind of. That's
yeah,
awesome.
you can put yourself in his
Tyler,
shoes.
I don't have the beard
Tyler, you
anymore, so it
gave
made
him
me
all
feel
your
a little
facial.
better. I was like, all right,
Dave, you gave him all your Facebook.
it's gone, dude.
You gave him all your
I'm
Facebook.
sorry that this
Mhm.
deviated. This happens on the show sometimes. That we have this great serious topic and then we deviate. But no, we're going to go back to the serious topic.
No, that's fine.
Lack of facial hair or not, we're going back. But yeah, floor is yours, bud.
Alrighty, no, it's fine. That's what podcasts are for.
Absolutely.
Anyway, for a guy like him, he's gonna have some fun because he is born to a pretty wealthy family. His father is actually, although ethnically Mexican, an American citizen by birth.
Okay.
His father does die when he is pretty young, but his mother inherits the family claim to thousands of acres of land, including that upon which that town of Matamoros sits, as well as plenty across the river. And the Mexican-American War, of course, we know the United States border is going to be pushed up to that river. Around that time, he is of martial military age. He serves as a corporal in the militia, fighting as a cavalryman at the first battle of Palo Alto, and then stays behind serving as kind of a scout around his home turf. Um, Now, once the war ends, Cortina apparently would always go around saying, I never signed the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. But in that barren area, he's still got to find some work. And you know who's hiring? The U.S. Quartermaster's Department. And they, once the soldiers all leave, they still have a lot of supplies left over. So he takes a job because he knows the terrain of escorting these American wagons back across the border. And in one episode, as he is leading a column, there's one teamster that wants to take some mules away from the herd to water them. But Cortina is under orders to keep everyone together no matter what.
Right.
He doesn't speak a whole lot of English at this time, and a brawl ensues. And he's found kind of astride this wagon master, this teamster, and was choking him. And apparently, the man's face turned black, his tongue was protruding from his mouth, and he was almost dead. So after this, there were some complaints about a hostile work environment, or
Yeah, there was no OSHA back then to help you out either. Nope.
yeah, but the 19th century equivalent of that, at least, and he does not get another contract. But that's how he comes to kind of working for the army again. But of course, there's a whole lot of other fallout from, or results, I should say, from the Mexican-American War. Certainly fallout on his side, because you've got these Anglo settlers, of course, wanting to get right along the river. They established the town of Brownsville, which is directly on his mother's land, and it does become a pretty prosperous place. That being because they want it to be a free trade zone, which basically means an illegal smuggling zone where they can take goods across the river, flip them for a profit, and make an honest dollar doing that. So the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo does actually guarantee property rights and personal rights for these Tejanos, these being people of Mexican origin living in what is now Texas and the pushed farther back border of the United States. But they're seldom going to be informed of these rights or granted these rights.
Okay.
So The Brownsville government is almost entirely Anglo, as well as the merchant and landholding elite. There's only a couple Spanish surnames that you even see in that class, and they're generally going to be of that merchant variety. So these Anglos are going to have control of a lot of banks. They're not going to be offering loans, or if they do, very predatory ones to Mexican customers. And they also drive many of the smaller Anglo shopkeepers and merchants out of business as well.
Okay.
So you've got a little bit of uh, maybe it's unfair to completely say caste system, but the poor Mexicans do take on the name Pelados, which essentially does mean untouchables. They're not really able to find a lot of work. In many cases, they're living communally in multifamily mud huts, cooking out in the open. And there are several instances of brutality and even murder on both sides. But when that does occur with the Mexicans as victims, very rarely are any charges brought forth. I found a quote from the Brownsville American Flag, which is of course going to be an American newspaper, which admits that um, Americans have at times committed offenses which have been overlooked, but if committed by Mexicans would have been severely punished. Um, and then, of course, central to civil rights are going to be the right to vote. And the sheriffs of the town, the lawmen, are going to post themselves up out of polling stations and turning away anyone they thought would vote against the interests of this business elite. But Cortina is going to make a name for himself, dragging Tejanos and maybe some people from across the Mexican border as well, but apparently cussing and muscling his way and their way inside the polling stations regardless. So you see a lot of resistance to kind of the standing order and how things are shaping up here. Doubly so because again, this is actually his mother's land, and believe it or not, after a very long legal battle, the Texas State Court does decide that Cortina's mother's land holdings are still valid and intact. This is actually such a controversial decision that the deciding judge is impeached 1 month later, ostensibly for other things. I haven't looked into. It could very well be valid reasons, but kind of sketchy. And it gets sketchier because by the terms of the agreement, she is forced to give the part of the land that includes Brownsville, so north of the Rio Grande, to her lawyers for $1. They turn around and sell it for the modern equivalent of 1.2 million, which is apparently still only 1/6 of its value, to the richest guy in town.
Would that be Juan?
That would not be. That would
Okay.
that would be one of those merchant elite who actually owns a town bank.
Oh, okay. He's
So
pretty wealthy.
yeah. So Juan's still balling out a little bit. He's got some cash, but there's going to be people making all sorts of money off of the trade going back and forth, taking pieces of the pie, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And he's got Cortina's got some cause for concern for sure, and all these things are kind of adding up. And one day, there's kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back. The town sheriff is a man called the Squinting Sheriff, named Robert Shears, and Cortina sees some pistol whipping an elderly Mexican that used to work on his mother's ranch. And Cortina asks, essentially, why are you doing this? And
Valid
apparently,
question.
yeah. I would like to know why, sir, you see fit to do this. And Shears apparently does not give a good answer. I don't know, there's probably not a whole lot of good answers to that question.
Probably not.
But Cortina then shoots that guy. So he shoots the sheriff, but he
Okay.
does not shoot the deputy.
Yeah. Round of applause for that one.
That was pretty bad. I don't.
No, it was good. That was good.
I'll take it. I'll take it. That shot hits him in the shoulder, Shears, and Cortina's probably humming the tune to himself. He takes that elderly Mexican on his horse, rides away into the sunset. Shears does ultimately survive, but we're gonna hear a little bit from him later. This episode is going to, among the Mexican population, kind of catapult him into a mini type of hero status. He's warmly welcomed back in Matamoros. He actually is going to write a couple times to Shears, even offering him money for the damages. But that doesn't, take away from the fact it does not lighten his deeds in the eyes of the Brownsville judiciary, who are going to indict him for attempted murder. But capturing someone across the border is going to be pretty hard. So he's kind of just chilling over there, and then sees an opportunity to go ahead and extract some more of his retribution. So I'll point out, maybe for people that aren't watching this live, that yesterday was Cinco de Mayo. And
yes, it was.
Yes, it was. So that's a good time here in America. But we have, and over there, but we have this conception that that's like the most important Mexican holiday, when as a matter of fact, it is not. That is going to be the Diez de Septiembre celebration, the 16th of September.
16th of September, day before Antietam. Nice.
Yeah, that's not the reason why, though. It's going to be the celebration of their independence from Spain. So that's their big thing. And on this specific year, 1859, in Matamoros, for some reason they delay that 12 days. So it's September 28th. And Cortina is going to decide, that's the day that I'm going to go over there and have a little party of my own. He gathers around 70 individuals to go ahead and try to find and kill 8 of these Brownsville elite, including the sheriff, despite him offering to pay for damages and stuff. Might have just been a ruse. But he chose this day in part probably because it was symbolic, and in part because just as we kind of do for Cinco de Mayo here, a lot of the townspeople, even across the river in Brownsville, are going to be pretty intoxicated. So, similar to Washington crossing the Delaware on Christmas, there's some tactical decision making in there as well. And so 70 men are going to ford the river with him, and they're riding into town on all sides, fire their pistols in the air, announce that they're there, guard the roads out of town. So a guard is posted, and then squads of 5 men each are going to be charged with finding one of those 8 men on the death list. Now, unfortunately, they kill others that are not on the list, such as the town jailer who was guarding the keys, his Mexican friend that was actually hiding him in his oven, and nice. One, not nice.
No.
And an innocent Mexican was shot accidentally. They do succeed in killing 3 of those targets, but all told, that's going to, not really be that successful for what they were planning out to do. Yes, sir.
Did they get the sheriff?
No, the sheriff was not one of them, no.
Okay.
Better luck next time.
Are you rooting for the sheriff to get shot, dude?
Again?
Yeah, he's like, I don't like the sheriff. I just by default. And he's like, nah, he was pistol whipping people.
Right. Just finish him off. Yeah, they tried.
Yeah, he's just got this like little root. He's like, get that sheriff. Yeah.
They were scheming on him, but no, a lot of people, when they hear, tons of pistols firing in the air, they're going to kind of figure out what's happening. Most of these guys find a hidey hole or stay with neighbors. So again, the majority of them do escape violence that day. Now, what they do not do, despite the bloodshed of innocents, is they do not loot the town in any way, shape, or form. By all accounts, this was specifically to get these people that have committed wrong, several of them accused of killing multiple Mexicans, to the extent that Cortina actually goes into a gun shop. The owner living upstairs is like, take everything you want, dude. Like, I don't want any part of it. And Cortina insists, like, no, I'm going to pay for all this stuff. I will take it, but I'm going to pay you what it's worth. Tell me how much it is. So, needless to say, that episode is going to kind of be an in and out operation pretty quickly. They're going to leave as soon as dawn breaks. And a Mexican general from the garrison of Matamoros is going to meet with Cortina. And we don't know exactly what was said, but that Mexican general basically said, like, dude, are you serious? Why did you do that? That's going to attract some attention. We don't want any part of this. We're not going to help you. I'm not going to turn you in right now, but like, you better get out of here. So Cortina does. They are going to go to his mother's ranch, which is only about 9 miles upriver. And somehow, despite that, he has a cousin that's a cavalry colonel in the Mexican military, and he gets Cortina a captain's commission, provided that Cortina can raise 100 men. And from doing that, Cortina can raise 100 men just like that. So, boom, he's got a captain's commission. Crazy story.
Okay.
We're just getting started, too.
I like that. This gets better. Oh, I mean, this is great already.
Dude, we're not even on War 1 yet.
Ooh, okay.
This is the prelude. So Cortina, well, okay, so I'll say back in Brownsville, everyone's pretty scared. A lot of people don't even realize like who this was. So there's all sorts of theories, and needless to say, they realize they're going to need protection. That help is like a day's ride plus away, and the only military force that's anywhere near them is that Mexican garrison in Matamoros. So that Mexican general does actually send about 100 soldiers over to encamp in Brownsville, Texas, to keep the peace and to guard the town. And you can imagine how, for anyone in America that's not living like right there, that this is going to be incredibly confusing. So the Mexican army is going north of the border to guard an American town from a Mexican guy that's in the Mexican army and is an American citizen. What the heck? So
yeah, it's a cluster.
It sure is. It sure is.
Yeah.
But yeah, things are going to develop. Cortina is going to not write but dictate a pronouncement saying basically he's going to war with a multitude of lawyers, a secret conclave. Does say, hey, I'm a U.S. citizen. I like America too, but I'm working to defend the rights of the Tejanos, and that they are going to exercise their sacred right of self-preservation. And he's going to be getting new recruits pouring in from all over, some from Mexico, even some from Texas, about 3/4 from Mexico. Most of them are going to be of indigenous origin. But some of the guys from Texas are actually pretty educated and wealthy, including a chief justice of Hidalgo County. And they are going to gradually start to build up arms on the other side of the river, start to train a little bit of a militia company. But it's kind of a glorified posse. On October 12th, that posse is going to arrest Cortina's second in command unofficially, a 60-year-old man named Tomas Cabrera, who had been riding with Cortina since before the Mexican War, good friend of his. But they capture him, and Cortina is going to pass on a message to Brownsville warning that basically if you harm a single hair on this dude's head, I will lay the town in ashes. So
nice.
We're popping off a little bit.
Yeah, we are.
The town's like, bring it on, dude. Go for it. And Cortina's going to be like, okay, I'll go for it. He is going to cross over from his mother's ranch. And with only about 40 men this time, he is going to start riding towards the town. And that Matamoros militia, the Mexican troops, I should add, by this time, are back where they are, or back where they were formerly garrisoned, back across the river on their side. That Brownsville posse is going to number around 75 infantry. They've got one gun, a 24-pounder. And they're also going to have a little squad of guys calling themselves the Brownsville Tigers, so kind of a separate militia company as well. So about 100 dudes, one heavy gun, and rifles from the Mexican War and muskets from even earlier. So a lot of 1842s. Some of these are apparently even earlier in flintlock, as a matter of fact. But as Cortina's going this way, they're going this way to meet him. Cortina's going to see this, stop, set out pickets, and the Brownsville party are going to drive in as pickets, push them through chaparral, which is a very heavy kind of shrubbery that you see out in Texas and Mexico, almost a natural abattis. Both sides are going to take advantage of that terrain. And they're going to go ahead and start to flank. They've also apparently recruited about 40 mounted ranchers from Mexico, from the Mexican side, to help this town. So it's not exclusively, Texans are on this side, Mexicans on the other. There is going to be, as I mentioned with that judge, actually some back and forth, some divided loyalties. Now, Cortina realizes he's flanked and decides to start to draw back. And all told, there's only 2 deaths on the Cortina side and 1 on the Brownsville side, although there's going to be a couple wounded. They're generally not going to be a big deal. However, one guy makes it a really big deal. One of those Brownsville Tigers deserts very early in the battle. And he swims his horse across to the Mexican side and then is going to make his way really far and going all the way to Corpus Christi. And there he says that in a 5-hour hand-to-hand fight, 500 Cortinistas, people with Cortina, are chanting "Death to all Americans" and slaughtered all of these militia and started to ransack the town.
Holy crap. Okay.
Which
just pop off.
Didn't happen, but he was freaking out, I guess. He panicked and thought, maybe that was happening, or he realized he deserted and tried to make an excuse or something. I don't know why he did that.
So, and Cortina realistically had what you said, maybe 40 people with him.
He crossed the border with, yeah. Around this time, he does probably have around 300 dudes on his side back at the ranch in total. But this is, I guess he's trying to do like a reconnaissance in force. This isn't really a serious effort to take the town, I would say.
Right.
But yeah, this guy's gonna make it a lot more than it was, and his testimony is going to be broadcast all over Texas, and people are going to really start to realize that this is a problem. Maybe more so than it is, but this is going to convince President Buchanan that we've got to send the regulars out here to take care of this. Right. And they do. So in the next few months, you've got some troops starting to move out there. You've got the Texas Rangers that are trying to keep the peace along the border. Couple minor skirmishes like that, but nothing really crazy. Now Cortina, despite being in the Mexican military, is not being well supplied at all. The Mexico is fighting the War of the Reform at the time, Benito Juarez on kind of the Democratic side against Santa Anna, and Cortina's guys are basically, in many cases, shoeless, and in many cases, they are kind of compelled to raid on both sides of the border, steal cattle, all this sort of stuff, and drive them back.
Is that a necessity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are cowboys, the lot of them, and they are going to be taking all sorts of property, stirring up trouble, and in some cases, indiscriminately. And finally, Major Samuel P. Heinzelman, who is a name you've probably heard of, is going to arrive, and he's given command of what they call the Brownsville Expedition. Cortina's probably up to around 500 guys at this time, and this time being December 15th. Heinzelman's going to leave Fort Brown, which is kind of a crumbling garrison in Brownsville that wasn't actively manned, with 165 regulars, 125 of these Texas Rangers. They're going to ride out to Cortina's ranch, ambush his party, but Cortina is pretty dug in, well fortified. He's got little stockades. He's got some cannons, and he's going to hold off quite a bit. However, they're going to start to push him back upriver away from the town and keep pushing him. And as they start to move west, Heinzelman is going to pursue, and he even has a quote. Apparently the Rangers and the Cortinistas are both doing some of this raiding and looting. And he says the whole country from Brownsville to Rio Grande City, 120 miles, and back to the Arroyo, Colorado, has been laid to waste. And Rio Grande City is going to be where Cortina ends up and makes a stand. On December 27th, it's going to be a very foggy day, and the Rangers can apparently not even see structures and buildings because they wander to within 40 yards of the town and Cortina's emplaced artillery, which then opens upon them. They're very quickly, almost entirely surrounded, and just when they're about to try to withdraw, they see a dust cloud coming towards them, and that's Captain George Stoneman and the U.S. Cavalry.
Oh, okay.
We're getting some.
I know those two names.
Yeah.
Very well. Heinzel. Yeah.
We got.
Hey,
Anthony looked like he had his finger up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Question.
I just find I was just doing a quick thing in the background here just to double check the year, but like Buchanan's got screwed twice this year, right? One, he's got this guy, which you never hear about, right? And similarly, he's got the freaking pig war going on up there, and within a matter of months of each other, it's just like there's you got Pickett, you got Heinzelman, you got Stoneman, and you got shit that people don't hardly ever hear about, right? So I just find it fascinating that this dude Buchanan that always gets shit end of the stick, and here you are, cool events.
Yeah.
But still, let's boo Buchanan. But look what he's dealing with. It's hardly ever. Give Buchanan some credit for doing something good here on both ends.
Absolutely right. You can sing his faults all day, but yeah, he does have some redeeming moments. The other thing going on nationally, of course, during this time, as we know, is John Brown's raid, and a lot of people in Texas.
That's right.
Feel that this is too coincidental, that these guys are working together as part of this abolitionist northern plot to incite rebellions.
You mentioned this is in December, right?
This
is happening also?
Yeah, Cortina, his first attack was on September 28th.
September.
And by the time that word is going to reach, kind of the rest of the South proper, it's going to be right around October. So, they're making it in some ways a bigger deal. This is going to be one of those national issues that we don't really hear about, in the modern retellings. But this was pretty much known to Southerners and, people all over the country. But we got Stoneman anyway coming in, and they got those Sharps 1859s, and they are blazing away. And Cortina's guys are going to be in trouble. They run out of ammo, and apparently, according to one ranger, Cortina has to resort to throwing a stick at him to get away. Yeah, just picks it up and chucks it. And with all that, they have to abandon their cannons, escape over the border, and over the entire pursuit, he's going to be soundly defeated at every turn. And he may have suffered as many as 200 deaths in his force. So it's going to be quite the blow. And to this point, not only do you have around 200 plus of Cortina's men being killed, around 300 wounded, 15 Americans, and around 80 unaffiliated Mexicans and Tejanos victims of this violence as well. So the situation is getting bad. We are in 1860 now, and on April 2nd, a date near and dear to my heart, but 5 years earlier, you got Colonel Robert E. Lee moving to Texas, and he is going to be issuing kind of a demand to the governor of that Mexican state saying, hey, you guys got to get this dude or we will. And they say, all right, we're going to try to get this dude. And Cortina realizes it's time to leave. He's going to attend to that whole reform war thing. He's going to fight with Benito Juarez on the Democratic side and vacate the north of Mexico. And then it ends. And Benito Juarez is elected president again. And Cortina's like, great, I'm going to go back. And then there's another election happening, and it's in Texas now. And that is going to be the referendum for secession. So, as you know, counties are going to vote. Many cases that doesn't really have any bearing on anything. But Zapata County, right around there, has that strong political machine. I mentioned some of the efforts to kind of suppress the voting. And the judge actually announces that anyone not voting for secession is going to be fined 50 cents. So it's no surprise. Whoa. Yeah. Who would have guessed? It's unanimous, 212-0 for secession. And some people that didn't show up to the polls are arrested later. So, yeah, that one was in the bag for them. And one of Cortina's guys, we don't know if he was acting on his orders, but is going to take 40 of Cortina's band. The guy kind of in charge of this is Antonio Ochoa, and he is going to move on the county building. He is going to threaten these public officials and say, don't take the oath of Confederate office. We like the Union around here. And they are essentially talked down, go back across the border to Mexico, and then that judge is going to issue orders for their arrest. So a Confederate cavalry captain now named Santos Benavides is going to act on that because Texas is now firmly seceded. We are talking about Confederate troops now, although small in number in this region, with 21 other guys. So 22 Confederate cavalry are going to ride to where Ochoa and these dudes are hiding out. A battle is going to break out, and in that, several civilians are again victims of this violence, as well as 9 of Ochoa's guys. This does not help these rumors that Cortina is making an alliance with Texas Unionists and the Northern government. I haven't found any evidence for that, but you can start to see how this is going to build a case. Cortina does seem to be a Union man through and through. And I think the reason why is because those that he sees as his oppressors are now wearing the Confederate gray. Might be as simple as that. So he's going to start a little expedition of his own. He's basically going to do the same thing that Ochoa does. And he's going to take guys up and ask the same thing, saying, hey, don't take the oath of office. And people in the courthouse are like, we already did, like, screw you. And he's going to say, okay, all you civilians, why don't you, like, leave and they can defend themselves. But in those discussions. That buys time for 36 other Confederates to ride in, racing 55 miles, apparently in as little as 13 hours. And I don't know how long it takes to tell these people, like, leave or get out, but they were kind of besieging the courthouse, and this is enough guys to, bring battle to Cortina's men. And
Okay.
the Mexican military at this point is going to see this happening, know what's happening, and saying, okay, we're going to help you guys now, the Confederates, and we're going to pursue Cortina and get everybody out of here. So that episode, the political interference, you could say, is the Second Cortina War. So we've got that. And then there's another war in Mexico. See, Benito Juarez is going to go ahead and inherit a country with a ton of debt from these preceding wars, right? And England, France, and Spain is going to own a lot of that debt. And Juarez is like, hey guys, our infrastructure is messed up. We can't do this right now. How about 2 years? Give me 2 years. And they say, no. So those three countries are going to put themselves at Veracruz. England and Spain are like, hey, we just want to open discussions. France pretends to, and then of course they are going to reveal their true designs, and that is to control Mexico, to reestablish their New World Empire, and put a monarch on the throne. So England and England and Spain just made a country up there. England and Spain are like, bro, that's all you. We're getting out of here. But France is going to keep going. They're going to push on. And Cinco de Mayo, speaking of, is going to celebrate the French defeat at the Battle of Puebla, which was very lopsided and very unexpected on the Mexican side. It is a great victory, but it's not long before France is able to continue their operations and take the capital of Mexico City. And Juarez is going to have to relocate about 220 miles north of that and operate a government in exile and a war. And France is going to put an Austrian on the throne, Maximilian. And so there's a lot of fighting going on down there. And on our side, this whole civil war is happening. So there's a lot of fighting going on every which way. And anyway, blah, 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 civil war. We know how that works. But as things are getting divided up, you've got kind of a little known expedition in 1863 where Nathaniel Banks is going towards Brownsville, Texas. You can probably show that picture, that little drawing, sketch, whatever you want to call it. And what is he going after? I'm glad you asked. The cotton trade. 1863, of course, we know the blockade is tightening, and one of the few remaining reliable and effective sources of foreign trade is going to be across the border with Mexico, and people are setting up shop in Brownsville and Matamoros. They are ready to get on it, including some merchants from Boston and New York too. They all want a piece of the pie. And of course, war materiel is being taken back over to the Confederate side. And to give you an idea of the extent, we've got, by January of 64, Edmund Kirby Smith reports that the Confederate government's debt from this trade alone is at $30 million in back then money. That's the equivalent of about $500 million
in
today.
back then money. I love that.
In back then money.
In back then money. But
yeah.
I'm going to quote you on that next time I use that.
Back then money. We got to love it. And keep in mind, cotton is about 5 times its pre-war price too. So there's that much trade going on, that much debt. So they're they're getting a lot of stuff from this trade, and the French are controlling a lot of central Mexico. Cortina is going to be holding on, of course, to that north. And while the Confederates are there, he's trading with them. Does he like that? Maybe not, but they're fighting a war on their side, and they need money desperately. So he is going to be basically taking all of this customs revenue and sending it to Benito Juarez as much as he can. So he's skimming some off the top from what we hear. He's making a little money for himself, but by and large, he's supplying his country. But anyway, and I gave you a statistic from 64, but that's just to give you an idea of this cotton trade. Banks is going to arrive in November 2nd of 1863. He's got 26 ships coming from New Orleans, and he's going to land 7,000 men onto Brazos Island. And if you have that map that shows like Fort Brown, Palmito Ranch, now would probably be a good time to show that. So you see that white star, Brazos Santiago, that is going to be, what I referred to as Brazos Island. Fort Brown is going to be in Brownsville. You can imagine that in Morris being right across the river, due south of it. And then keep in mind where that Palmito Ranch battlefield is, because that's going to be important. We all probably know that is the last battle of the Civil War, but that is what I call second Palmito Ranch. There is the first. Dun, dun, dun. So anyway, if you've got that memorized, you can go back to our beautiful faces.
Everybody's smiling. Look at that. Good.
Peace.
I was wondering that when the map popped up and I saw Palmito Ranch, I'm like, wait a minute, we're on 63. I thought that was no. So there is a first battle and a second battle. Okay.
There is, and it's a good one. So Cortina is going to start talks with the Union at this time, and they're going to continue on. And of course, as we know, Nathaniel Banks is going to do the whole Red River campaign. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those guys that were in Texas are going to leave. John McClernand makes an appearance in Brownsville, and he meets with Cortina in April of 64. He asks Cortina to stop the cotton trade, and Cortina's like, man, I got to make some money here. Sorry. But Cortina does promise him, I will do everything that tends to the good and prosperity of the American Union. And as kind of a reward, McClernand is going to give him 10 artillery pieces. So that's a show of friendship. The Confederates and the French imperial forces are going to be pretty incensed at this, but they're going to be a little more incensed when they see what is going to happen in a little bit. He is in September of 64 going to get ready to do what he's going to do. He is going to stop the cotton trade all of a sudden, and the Confederates are like, dude, what is going on? Well, he's been talking to the guy that is still there at Brazos Island, Colonel H.M. Day of the 91st Illinois. And he's been talking to Department of the South commanders, and he says, hey, Cortina wants to kind of fight for us, like here. And they're like, okay, we'll take him, I guess. But when he crosses, you got to disarm him and all his dudes, and we're going to find out what he actually wants. And you are definitely not going to let him fight the French and then just like hop across our border and keep doing that, because that's going to be a huge problem. And we don't have time to deal with that. So he's like, okay, we'll see what we can do. So on September 6th, Cortina is going to cross 300 guys over the border, of course, and start heading towards this position at Palmito Ranch. He's going to already have some artillery set up there. Mm-hmm. And early in the morning, those 6 guns are going to start bombarding the 4th Arizona Cavalry that happens to be at Palmito Ranch. Colonel Day is starting to move in that direction, but apparently they don't have like their timing set up straight, and they don't know exactly when Cortina is going to do his stuff. Maybe he went off a little early, but either way, it's going to be just Cortina at first, and eventually you get some of those Illinois troops moving to Confederates elsewhere to the north of them and pushing everyone back to Brownsville. Day still being somewhat unaware that Cortina is already across the river. In Brownsville, they've only mustered around 300 regulars and whatever militia they can. And they're hiding out there just as scared, if not more, than they were when Cortina's first attack on the town happened. So on the 9th, a couple days later, Day is going to dispatch the 1st Texas Cavalry, U.S., to Palmito Ranch, and he says, okay, I think they're going to cross now, disarm them. And then they get there, and it's like, oh, these guys are already here. And then that's when the Confederates attack. So they had just started like disarming these guys. They had apparently stacked arms and like stepped away, and then they get attacked. Of course, perfect timing. So the Mexican troops are allowed to grab their muskets again, and they're going to respond to this threat in earnest. Apparently, that Mexican or Cortina's artillery, 6 guns are still there, so that is very instrumental in kind of forestalling what would be a pretty bad time otherwise. So they do hold the ground. The next day, a Confederate captain reports finding Yankee and Mexican pickets exactly where we left them yesterday. And on the 11th, the Confederates do return, not in piecemeal this time, in full force. They estimate that the force under this U.S. flag is around 500 infantry, 200 cavalry, and 8 guns. But by 8:30 that morning, despite these numbers, they are successful in pushing this force 2 miles downriver. Things are going to develop from there. Ultimately, Cortina and Day are going to decide, hey, we better kind of go our separate ways here. It was a nice plan, didn't quite work out. So they're going to say goodbye. Although some of Cortina's guys are going to decide to join with the Union Army.
Ooh, so they split.
Some in the regular U.S. Army are going to decide to go with Cortina.
No kidding. Okay, so regular Army are leaving. That's interesting.
And there's going to be a little bit more of that too. It's crazy, like the back and forth and the divided loyalties and everything. So
the regular Army going with Cortina has got me kind of baffled. That's interesting.
Well, it is. I'll kind of spoil something for you. That in 1865, Godfrey Weitzel's 25th Corps are going to be the guys like literally stationed along the border. And according to an agent set from Juarez that did meet with President Andrew Johnson, that was intentional because those guys were seen as the most likely to either defect or, when their enlistments expire, to join the Mexican Army. There are a couple all-American units, and it is so hard to do any research on them that do serve in this war. It's kind of hard to tell like exactly where they came from. But yeah, it's weird, and it gets weirder.
That's awesome.
Now, you can pull up that OR thing straight from the official records, ladies and gentlemen. If you're doubting me, if you're hating, like, look at this. All right. So from Rip Ford, a Confederate, I'm not going to read it all to you, but basically he's saying, hey, in these battles between the 6th and 12th, I captured 12 Mexicans of Cortina's brigade. Were they fighting for the U.S.? And Colonel Day is going to say, yep, you did it. Good job. In response to that, These men were in the service of the U.S. and fighting under the U.S. flag. So, why did he say that? Because this is a legal defense. You can basically say, if that they are U.S. combatants, then this is not a violation of neutrality. That this is totally by the book.
Yeah.
Which it wasn't.
I know, but you do have the official communique there. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. But they work around that. So things are going to be a-okay. And eventually the war is going to, on our side, start to wind down. And to kind of further show you what the U.S. policy is and maybe why some of these guys, the government and these individuals are going to, I see, 2 minutes. Okay.
It's all right, man. We can, if there's more to it, we can do a part 2. But yeah, we cut the typically at an hour just for space.
Oh shoot, yeah, I was rambling.
Okay. I'm interested. I would go longer if I could.
Part 2. Dang. Okay. Yeah.
We can do a part 2. I'd be happy to do that.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah, because it seems like there's a lot more.
I want to see what happens.
I know.
You got a cliffhanger.
Anthony's still wondering what happened to the sheriff.
Yeah, he ends out okay. Spoiler alert.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe not for Anthony's sake, but that's good.
Left you get something good.
That's right. Hey, Aaron, I want to thank you so much for taking the time today to bring this story to us. This is really, really cool. And I mean, normally I am more talkative and asking questions, but dude, I'm so into this story right now that I'm like, oh my God, this is fantastic. This is a whole new aspect of the Civil War that I didn't know. And I hope those watching at home also can have a good takeaway from that. Because again, what history book did you learn this in?
All
over. So, dude, what a cool story. And yeah, something I would have never even thought of until today.
Part 2.
We will do a part 2. Yeah, we'll get some schedules together, man, and we'll make it happen very soon too.
Okay,
it needs to happen sooner than later. I don't want to let it sit. This is a good one.
Okay, sweet.
Aaron, again, thank you. Of course, dude.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, and everybody watching or listening on Spotify, thank you guys so much.